In this video, I'm going to briefly go over the Workflows tab in the Whippet documentation. This page briefly covers the different ways that we can utilize Whippet and its respective features for different workflows. There's a lot of ways that Blender is used for storyboarding and previs, whether it's just doing traditional 2D storyboarding, using cameras as ways to capture backgrounds and then take screenshots and then bringing them into a 2D software, or you just go straight into actually doing this like StoryViz, this 3D storyboarding stuff. So however you want to work, Whippet has a few tools to help you do that. You're not locked into a certain way of working, so it's entirely up to you. In each of these tabs here, I briefly describe how each workflow would work and then just have kind of an example. I will go into detail in later videos on how to apply each workflow and method so you're familiar with all the processes. But in short, for 2D storyboarding is just like how the default Blender 5.0 Story Tools update works, where you use scene strips and each scene strip is its own shot. So Whippet has a Whippet button here under the Scene Tools menu that you can utilize to help get you set up and add, additional shots. We'll cover that in the Getting Started page here on the left in the next section. Whippet provides a way of easily exporting specific keyframes so that you can export camera keyframes or certain, sections of your scene into PNG files, which you can then import into a 2D software. There's also a references feature, so if you want to use a model as a reference, but then have it be hidden from one file and having, for example, what we call a clean plate, so you can also use that feature so that way you're drawing to scale, which is very handy for specific shows. Whippet also comes with a unique 2D storyboard mode, which essentially quickly sets up every new camera with a grease pencil object set in front of the camera. So instead of having to animate the grease pencil object through an environment, you can also just cheat it by basically drawing over an entire 3D set by just drawing right on top of the camera. This is just a faster way of working where we're not focused on animating a 3D object in space like doing layout, but instead we're just trying to tell the story as quickly as possible. With the non-linear editing scene strips workflow, this is just like the Blender 5.0 Story Tools, but we can actually take this a bit further by binding individual cameras in one scene. So if you're using a 3D environment, again, this is what I showed in the Blender 5.0 Story Tools tab, explaining what scenes are and how we can use them. And again, here, this is the example where you can have multiple cameras in a scene and every camera is bound to its own scene strip. And so this is how another way we can use non-linear editing with scene strips. The last workflow is using Playblast and then importing video strips into the VSE. This is kind of how we used to have to work, but it's still a common way to work because there are a few advantages here where you get take versions, so you can go refer back to an old version of what you did. That's great with working with directors and getting feedback. And then you can also export your video strip, your whole animatic reel, to an EDL, which is something that editors can ingest to quickly cut your footage together. It'll be imported and cut exactly how you have it cut in your Blender file. And just to note that even if you start with the scene strip workflow using nonlinear editing, you can also leverage the Playblast scene strips, and this will export all your scene strips as individual video files and then re-import them and cut them and time them exactly how you have your scene strips, basically allowing you to easily go from the scene strip workflow to using Playblasts. Because I know that some productions would prefer you to use Playblast and have all that video file footage.